Welcome. Come a little closer. I'm Evangeline Moss, and tonight the cypress trees are still, and the candlelight is low. Out here the air is thick with stories, the kind that drift through the moss and settle softly around you. So, rest your eyes, listen closely, and let the swamp tell you a story. And some nights, the swamps don't tell just one story. It breathes them out. Slow, wet, patient. Letting them slip through the trees, through the cracks in their walls, through the spaces you forget to watch. Small ones, quiet ones. The kind that don't stay where you leave them. The kind that learn the shape of your home. So, rest your eyes, listen closely, and let the swamp tell you a few stories tonight. Because, once you hear them, they don't stay in the swamp anymore. The first one comes from a house with a screen door that never closes right. They say it's the frame, the way the wood swells in the humidity, the way the air down here makes everything soft, warped, unreliable. But if you ever heard it, late at night, you'd know better. It doesn't just shut. It chooses when. The first time it happened, I checked the time. 1:07 a.m. Not 1:06, not 1:08. Exactly 1:07. The sound was sharp, sudden. That hollow clap of wood slapping into place. Too loud for an empty house. I lived alone, still do. So I sat there in the dark, letting the silence stretch, waiting for the quiet to come back. It didn't. Because a few seconds later, I heard it creak open again. Slow, careful, like someone standing just outside, testing the sound, learning how loud it was allowed to be. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. Just listened. The hinge dragged at the end. That same dry scrape I'd heard hundreds of times during the day. But never like that. Never patient. Never like something was trying to be gentle. The air changed when I opened it. That's what I remember the most. Like the house exhaled. Like something outside had been waiting to come in. The next morning I checked the cameras, and I wish I hadn't. The door didn't swing open. It eased. Just enough to break the latch. Just enough to create a gap. Dark and narrow, like a mouth opening. And then it stayed there, half open, for nearly 3 minutes. 3 full minutes of nothing. No movement, no shadow, no shape. Just that opening, waiting before slamming shut, hard and violent, like something had been tired of being invited. I replaced the latch that afternoon, stronger, tighter, something that shouldn't give, something that wouldn't allow anything through. That night, 1:07 a.m., it opened again. Slower this time, wider, like it knew it didn't have to try as hard. And this time, it didn't close. By morning, it was still open, and there were wet footprints just inside the threshold, not leading in, standing there, as if whatever came through hadn't needed to go any further. The second story is one the trees like to keep. You'll hear it if you walk far enough beneath the moss. Far enough that the road doesn't sound like anything anymore. Far enough that even your own footprints feel borrowed. That's when you notice it. The way the moss moves. Not with the wind. Not with the air. But on its own. Just slightly. Just enough to make you question whether you saw it at all. People say Spanish moss is harmless. That it's just a plant. That it hangs. It sways. That it follows the breeze. But the ones who say that haven't stood under it when the air is completely still. And it's still moving. I did once. It was late. Too late to be out there alone. But the swamp has a way of making you feel like you're not alone. Long before anything shows itself. It lets you feel watched before it lets you see why. I stepped beneath the low-hanging branch. The moss brushed my shoulders. Soft, light, like hair. I stopped because there wasn't any wind. Not even enough to move the water. But above me, the moss was still shifting, dragging, sliding against itself, like something had just passed through it and hadn't quite finished. I turned, carefully, expecting to see someone, something, anything. There was nothing there. Just the trees, the still water, and that quiet, that heavy, listening quiet. The kind that feels like it's pressing in on your ears. I told myself it was nothing. Just nerves. Just imagination catching up with the dark. So I kept walking. But a few steps later, I felt it again. That same soft brush. Only this time it didn't pass. It lingered, rested against my neck, like something deciding whether to hold on. When I looked back, the moss hung lower, closer to the ground, like it had stretched or reached. And just for a moment, I thought I saw something woven into it. Not leaves, not branches, something darker, something denser. Shapes that didn't belong, lengths that bent the wrong way. And just before I stepped away, it shifted again. Not with the wind, but towards me. I don't walk under it anymore, because sometimes when the air is still, you can feel it moving, even when you're not there. And sometimes you'll find strands of it caught on your clothes long after you've left the tree behind. This last story is one that the swamp doesn't forgive you for hearing. Not because it isn't true, but because once you understand it, you'll start looking at the trees differently. And sometimes they notice. It begins with the cypress. Tall, patient, rooted in black water that doesn't forget. People admire them, photograph them, talk about how beautiful they are. The ways they rise out of the swamp like something ancient, something untouched. But they're not untouched. Not really. Because people leave things behind. Initials carved into bark, dates, hearts. Proof that they were there. Proof that they mattered. And the cypress, it keeps it. I knew someone who carved his name into one. Said it was just for fun. Said the wood was soft enough if you pressed hard. said the tree didn't feel it. He laughed when he did it. That's the part I remember the most. The sound of it. Knife dragging slowly through the living wood. A wet, dull scrape. Like cutting into something that shouldn't bleed, but might. He stepped back when he finished, looked proud. His name sitting there in pale, fresh lines against the bark. Too clean, too new. Like it didn't belong. The swamp was quiet that day. No birds, no insects, just the still water and those trees watching. That night, he said he couldn't sleep. Said something felt off. Like his skin didn't fit right. Like something was under it. It started as an itch along his arm. Nothing serious. Just a thin line that burned when he touched it. But by morning, it had split open. Not deep. Not enough to bleed much. Just enough to look intentional. A straight, shallow cut. Too straight. Too clean. Like it had been drawn there. He covered it. Didn't think much about it. Until the next one appeared. Then another. Each one longer. Each one deeper. Always while he slept. Always in the places that he couldn't quite reach easily. And always with the same strange precision. Like something was practicing. The third night, he woke up screaming. He said he could feel it. Not pain. Not exactly. Pressure. Dragging. Like something was pressing into him. Slowly. Carefully. Following a shape it already knew. When they found him the next morning, he was still alive. Barely. But alive. His skin, from shoulder to wrist, had been carved. Letters. Deep this time. Ugly. Uneven. But readable. His name. Not the way he wrote it. Not clean. Not careful. The lines were jagged. Forced. Like whatever had done it didn't understand flesh in the way it understood wood. He never went back to the swamp. He wouldn't even say the word Cypress after that. But the marks never faded. They sank, darkened, stayed. Like they belong there now. But that's not the worst of it. Because some people don't carve. Some people cut. Chainsaws echo differently in the swamp. Louder than they should. Like the sound carries farther. Or deeper. There is a man who took one down. Said it was old. Said it was rotting. Said no one would miss it. It took longer than he expected. The blade kept catching, dragging, like the wood didn't want to separate, like it was holding itself together. But eventually, it fell. Slow, heavy, with a sound that didn't echo, just stopped. The water swallowed the rest. They say the swamp went quiet after that. Not peaceful, not calm, just waiting. He didn't make it a week. They found him 3 days later, not far from where that tree stood, face down in the water. At first they thought he slipped, fallen, drowned, until they tried to move him. He wouldn't come free, because something had come up through him. One of the cypress knees. Thick, knotted, old. Driven straight through his back and out through his chest. Like he'd been placed there. Like the swamp had grown into it. The strange part, the part no one talks about, is that the knee hadn't been there before. Not where he fell. Not anywhere near it. And the wood was fresh, pale, unaged, like it had only just begun to grow. So, if you ever find yourself out there, beneath those trees, and you feel the urge to leave your mark, to carve your name, to take something that doesn't belong to you, you might want to think twice, because the cypress doesn't forget. They don't forgive. And they don't need to chase you. They have time. They have patience. And they know exactly how to leave a mark that stays. Some stories are louder than others. Some scream Some chase, some leave marks that you can point to. But the ones you have to be careful of are the quiet ones, the ones that wait, the ones that watch, the ones that learn, because those are the ones that don't need you to believe in them to find you. The candle is burning low now, and the swamp has grown quiet. If you're still awake, there's always another story waiting for you here. Sleep well, and I'll be right here.